Welcome to Ties Karmic Recall with David Dimitri. Edutainment, expression for liberation. We're here to continue the talk
with me, Bob Kirlconnell, radio host and author.
American Heart of Darkness. That's right, entertainment when we need edutainment. And all you vibrating higher consciousness. It was an international fight over that area because of the heroin. But you need to know it started a long time ago with the Japanese and British fighting each other over Hong Kong in China.
The French were involved in that. That was financing their war.
The heroin was.
The heroin, yeah. And the British, you know, we inherited from the French. And
thank you.
French President Charles de Gaulle told Kennedy that you don't want to mess with this stuff in Vietnam. This is one of the reasons of the Kennedy assassination. Kennedy had a clear picture of why he needed, although initially, you know, he was a cold warrior and all this, he believed in all this stuff, but there were a lot of things that came about that Kennedy was a smart man, and he says, you know, one of the things that MacArthur told him, any president gets involved in a land war in Asia ought to have his head examined. And he was talking about Kennedy, and he had a lot of people that talked to him, you know, and one of them was that French president Charles de Gaulle, who had a lot of experience. He says, you cannot win this. You know, and incidentally, that whole Vietnam War, the object was not to win. The object was to keep it going, so that you can run the heroin.
Occupation to run the heroin.
Yeah, yeah. That's
wow.
That's what it was, and people were saying, "What's your exit plan?" and all that. There was no. The plan was not to exit.
Wow.
Just to keep it going. And the only thing that got in their way was the American people got sick of it.
Right.
You know, that was.
And you know what? On that note, the Iran-Contra scandal, Freeway Rick Ross, that was just an echo. Obviously, of what started really with the British going into China and enslaving China with heroin way back in the early 1800s. So the United States obviously walked into a trap with an ego after the success of World War II and the arguable successes in Korea. Walking in Vietnam was a big trap, and as we see, that living proof is here for you to know that it was a whole lot more involved in that than strategic positioning and fighting communism and democracy. It actually seemed to have nothing to do with that.
It had absolutely nothing to do with that. That was the cover story. And these guys, even the British, they had kind of a sweet little deal where they made textile machinery. They take it in the Bay of Bengal.
And that's in Vietnam.
This was way back. You know, This is like around the Civil War and after the Civil War.
Okay, wow.
And all that.
It's been going on a long time.
And then they would, that's where we learned.
So the
These
British
were American captains that were on these ships that were running opium into China with the opium wars.
So the British paid Americans to bring their ships in the 1800s. This is before the Civil War, obviously. You said the early 1800s.
Yeah.
So we've been involved in Vietnam and China.
Oh yeah, we got our training from the British, and the British used us because we came up with this clipper ship that was about twice as fast as any other ship, and it could tack into the monsoon winds in between the Bay of Bengal and China. And whereas a regular ship, it'd take months to do that. The clipper ships could make it in about 2 weeks, 2 or 3 weeks.
Right.
And so this is their profit margin. And then when they were in China, they sold the opium, and then they loaded the ships up with tea and silk and all this stuff.
So it's
and
trade
they came back. So they're making money on all three legs. And if you kick the British Empire, if you kick one of those legs, those 3 legs out, it falls. And drugs was a part of this, as it has been every empire way back, you know, as far as I could trace in my book.
Well, what if we can say hypothetically that a ship is bringing oil out of Saudi Arabia. It comes in the dock to pick up the oil, but it's bringing cocaine and heroin in to the Saudi Arabians.
Yeah, I don't know that.
Now, I'm just saying hypothetically that we're still living in this.
But I do
look
know
at the crack cocaine
the State
epidemic.
Department says they don't know where this stuff is coming from.
And a lot of that
You're
heroin.
talking hundreds of tons of heroin.
Oh my
and
God.
They don't know where it's coming from.
What he's revealing to you is that there was so much heroin being brought to the United States and distributed worldwide through the powers of the United States that heroin could not even have possibly been used. There's still heroin sitting around being sold to this day in the United States, in Canada, in Central and South America that came from Asia.
Let's talk
20, 40 years ago. That's how much heroin, because there wasn't as much ability to investigate. There wasn't as much technology to make bust. There weren't as much blocks and reprimands in regards to corruption. So it must have been so much heroin.
They don't bust,
it's still around here now.
They busted a few of the couriers. They busted some of these guys that you talked about, the American gangster guys and all that.
Right.
But it's all the small players. They don't go after the
real guys.
It's the banks and it's Wall Street.
Oh
and
my
the people
God.
that can control that.
So Frank Lucas and those people were really just suckers, pawns in the game. They were somebody being used. Whoever on top said, yeah, let him get big and let him do this. And when they try to get too close, we'll let them get him. But he'll never know that we're pulling his strings.
Oh, and it was Ike Atkinson, who was, the Lucas. He kind of, to get a little notoriety, he kind of got fast with he's not the one that said that stuff.
Right.
He was involved in this.
He was just involved with it.
Yeah, there's Atkinson and a guy named William Herman Jackson.
Yes.
Who ran a bar called the 4-Star American Bar in Thailand.
Oh, wow.
It was in the capital of Thailand.
Now we're getting in. Thailand is involved in this. Heroin and cocaine is Central America.
Asia.
Heroin is Asia.
This stuff only grows in a mountain range. These mountains that run all the way from Southeast Asia and they run up into Turkey.
Okay, that's where Afghanistan comes into play. So heroin's all in Afghanistan today, where the United States of America will refuse to stop having a war there or an occupation. Now we know why.
It'll grow in South America that has, in the Andes, that has the right conditions for it. But it's got to be alkaline soil, and that means like limestone.
The electrolytes.
And it's got to be over 3,000 feet. It's got to be a temperate climate. It's very fussy about where it grows.
Oh, wow.
And it's only that mountain range where you can really grow it. So all of this stuff is about, okay, Turkey is doing this. And this is the same mountain range that, and you notice we got war after war after war in there. In South America, all the cocaine. Cocaine is the same way. It's got to be alkaline. It's the same kind of an environment. Not exactly the same.
Right.
But that stuff, and to piggyback on what they do with, they make money on this stuff, and the whole banking system. You take out the drug money, our banking system, Wall Street, and all that collapses.
Woo!
But here's what they do is, and these guys, and this is what my book, where I really got into, the people that created this country were racist in capital letters.
Absolutely.
I mean, these people hate black people.
Right.
And they did, and they do right now. And so what they did is they took these drugs, this is Freeway Ricky Ross.
Right.
They dump it in the inner city. They take the money out of the inner city on drugs. They get everybody fighting. Like you had the Black Panthers.
Right.
There was a political party.
Right.
They started the breakfast program.
Right. They're trying to help people.
Yeah. This is why the schools are serving breakfast in the morning. When you go to
they
school,
got it from the Black Panthers
because they were trying to compete with the
Black Panthers. Black Panthers made them look bad.
So you don't want unity in the inner city. And first of all,
you need everyone on drugs.
Concentrate everybody of African descent to put them in one place and then you throw drugs in there, and it's like scorpions that are fighting in a bottle, and it's enough to corrupt anything, and you corrupt all this. You take the wealth out of the inner city, and you also, there's people shooting at each other, you can sell them guns, and now the ones that don't get shot, you can throw them in jail. You got the prison industrial complex, where you contract these people out with the same corporations that set this whole thing up. These are slaves. The definition of a slave is somebody that's forced to work for nothing.
And be miserable.
This is what, you know, a million and some, you got over 50% black males in the prison thing, and what is it, 14, 12% of the population?
That's not an accident, that's an agenda.
No, and you take them off the voting rolls.
Right.
They have no political, they have
no
money.
Lobbying, no nothing.
You've taken that, you've got them all fighting with each other. You convince everybody that they're bad. I mean, white people use as much drugs as black people.
Right.
But they don't get searched walking down the street.
Not only that, they don't get legislation at the Supreme Court in Washington, D.C. saying 100 years to one. And so that's how people need to know that was a historical, systematic, genocidal legislation meant to destroy African Americans. And it destroyed millions of African Americans.
I traced that back. You said we did away with slavery. No, it got replaced with Jim Crow.
Right.
So, okay,
they changed slavery. We
got rid of Jim Crow.
Right.
No, it's the prison industrial complex, which is the new Jim Crow. Some people call it James Crow. No, it just. But it's these all
James Crow.
These laws, all our laws, loitering.
Right.
You go to Beverly Hills, how many people get thrown in jail for loitering?
Nobody.
No.
Right.
You know, well, what's the crime there? You know, you're standing there. There've been in New York, there've been blacks arrested standing on the sidewalk in front of their own house.
Doing nothing.
Yeah, arrested.
Nothing wrong.
Arrested for that.
Right.
And
arrested for being black.
This whole thing.
Let's discuss the killings of the blacks. For me, the way I was taught, raised up, I was raised, and I was heavily influenced by a movement in the African American community named the 5 Percenters, God Body, and what they taught us was a couple of individuals, one from Chicago, one from New York, another one from Detroit. They worked on me. They used to just come and get me and gave me the math, that's what we call it, the science, and I was only like 12 years old. And I was learning this view on the world from these men from the East Coast who had, from these traditional and historical black communities who had came up with their own mind state for knowledge of self and love of self. So what they taught us is that there's no such thing as anything that's repeating itself as a phenomenon being an accident or being an isolated incident. It's an agenda. So what, to me, these killings of all these unarmed black women and men is, it seems to me, as a public diplomacy ploy by law enforcement, which was ordered from the top. Because just like in prisons, from the law enforcement, the correctional facilities, you will have people that are white that were ordered the leaders of the Hispanics in the prisons in California. Not Hispanics, but whites will order Hispanics, whites that aren't even in the prison, will order the Hispanics to have all the Hispanics attack the blacks in the prisons and outside of the prisons. And they will do it. So, you know that. You're white, whoever you are watching, and Hispanic, and some of you are black, and you know, and you've been to prison, you've been on the streets, and you know it's a fact. Those calls are not being made by Hispanics alone. So what I'm saying is, why would we, as a consensus of people, be stupid enough, and I don't care what race you are, I don't care what religion you are, I don't care what economic class you are, why would you be stupid enough to think that the redundant same thing is happening? Isolating incidents accidentally. From my view, it is an agenda. It is a public diplomacy. The law enforcement, for 2 reasons, and you can address all this. Just 2 reasons. Public diplomacy, bringing attention to us. We have power. Your cameras and your black president doesn't mean shit to us. We will do what we want when we want. You having some black cops here with us won't stop us either. We're going to kill who we want. And then here goes the other, that's one of the public, that's the public diplomacy. That's one of the public diplomacy reasonings. That's the benefit the law enforcement of the United States of America is getting out of all of this over-violent and hate and killing innocent people and imprisoning innocent people. Suddenly, over the last 5 years, but specifically the last few years. But another thing that they're accomplishing with this is it goes back to the slave plantations, the Willie Lynch. You get the strongest black male. And I don't care even if you had American natives. I don't care even if you had some Irish that you were enslaving, because Irish have been enslaved. You get the strongest male. You get everybody, and you make them sit down and watch. You tie up any other strong male and beat them too. But you get the strongest one. You rape them publicly in front of all of the other slaves. And then you rip his body apart, have a horse go that way and the other horse, and you tie him and you rip his body apart. Or you beat his head into, and you get his wife and cut her pregnant stomach open and stomp the baby. And you get the smartest woman who everyone thought had some power and some love with the master, because he don't rape her no more. They just make love when he's ready. And then you kill her too in front of everyone. And so what that does is it put all the slaves, it even put the workers who doing the beating, who aren't even black or American native, who aren't even Irish. It put them in check. So I believe those are the two agendas. To get the public diplomacy attention, and that benefits for law enforcement, and then for the courts, so they can say, hey, we're going to do what we want when we want. We will not take any of these cops to court, let alone convict them. And then the other of the two is, the reason why they do that on them plantations and on those reservations was to keep everyone in fear. So long as they keep killing blacks, everyone else in the society is going to be scared to death of law enforcement. Mm-hmm. And this is beyond race. Yeah. So we know those two agendas are beyond race, because it could be whites doing that to white, it could be some British doing it to Irish, you know, some Vietnamese doing that to some Cambodians, yeah. It could be some Nigerians doing it to some Cameroonians. But it is the hate of blacks, like he said.
You're right. Yeah, and they don't have to tell the cops to go out and do this. They structurally create a system. And who's been involved in most of this is an organization named ALEC, American Legislative Exchange Council, or Commission, Council, I believe. ALEC, A-L-E-C. They represent big business in America. They're the ones that passed the cocaine laws on crack cocaine, powdered cocaine, and all this.
Oh, yeah, they did.
Yeah, and what they did is they
pushed for the legislation.
Some of the laws they put in were like racketeering influence criminal organization, where you can seize somebody's property, mm-hmm. And so you have like inner city police,
right?
And they use money. I've run into cases where they used money that they of people, they seize their property, they seize these things and make money on it, and they take a trip to Hawaii every year. So you've got this positive reinforcement, this psychological thing in these cops, and you got the guy in charge of them going, go out there and kick ass, you know. So they're going out there and they're throwing people in jail, they're seizing property, there have been cases where somebody had cash on them, and it was legitimate cash to start a business or something. They're on, can I search your, you know, on a train or something like
right.
that, or bus or whatever, search the guy and find the cash, you hadn't done anything wrong, and confiscate it.
Right.
You know, they put that motivation in there. Now you don't have to. Now you don't have to tell people what to do. You create the environment where it's advantageous.
It's the same thing with the gangs.
Yes. Yeah. Where these guys have gotten good at this. They're
environmental.
Smart,
it's social science.
They're actually evil, and I don't mean like in church kind of evil. I'm talking about bone deep. I mean, I mean these folks are. You know, that's not all they do. You know, out of the prison system they make money. Out of the the drugs they make money, out of the firearms they make money.
Right.
You know, and I get these guys, and most of them are white, they're trying to take my gun away and all that. No, they want you shooting at each other.
Right.
You know?
Mm-hmm.
Because then you're not together. You know,
right.
as soon as it's like the South.
Not a threat.
With the sharecroppers and the redneck farmers and all this, they have more in common than anybody in the world.
But they get pitted against each other.
Yeah. Did you create that environment
right.
where you've got them like that? You know, and your point with the strong, or somebody like Martin Luther King or Muhammad Ali is a good example of that. That's why they went after him when he refused. And he had good grounds for
not going.
Yeah,
the
he
world
did.
champion.
And the guy is saying, "Look, I ain't got nothing against Viet Cong."
Right.
And my religion says, don't be. Yeah, they
don't go kill innocent
people.
Right.
I'm not doing it. And Muhammad Ali had the courage, the moral courage, to actually stand up to that. And he's a better man. He's well respected throughout the world. If he'd have caved into that and been a chump,
yeah, I know, man,
he wouldn't be Muhammad Ali.
Right.
And Martin Luther King saw him do that.
Mm-hmm.
And Martin Luther King also saw Eartha Kitt, the singer.
Right.
Went to the White House and sounded on LBJ.
Sure did, right there in front of everybody.
Right there, and called him out over the Vietnam War.
Right there in front of his face.
You're killing black people,
right.
And you're doing all this stuff.
Why y'all doing this?
And you're in a formal setting. I think it was a ball or awards.
I seen
everybody's
a video of it.
Tuxedos.
She stood up and walked while he was talking in front of everyone.
She put words down on the
right
guy.
there in his face.
And Martin Luther King said, if Eartha Kitt has the guts to stand up, then Muhammad Ali does.
It's time for me to do it.
I do too, and that's where it's time to break the silence.
Right.
That is considered his, Beyond Vietnam speech, but that wasn't the name of it, where he called it out and said something is wrong when you've got people starving in this country.
Right.
You have, and you're over fighting other people, and he went into the whole how morally corrupt the Vietnam War was and what it did. Right. And you cannot be advocating this kind of violence. Right. And have a civil society.
Implement it.
Yeah, and in words that were extremely eloquent. The guy was brilliant.
And that's why they killed him. Because he finally,
to the day,
he finally opened up on them about calling them on their own evil.
1 year to the day after he gave that Beyond Vietnam, or Time to Break the Silence speech, he had a hole in him. He was dead. And I don't think it was a coincidence.
No such thing.
That it was one day out. You want to talk that way, this is what happens.
Kennedys?
Yeah.
The Kennedys.
Yeah.
And that's how it goes. Martin Luther King was killed. They were Malcolm X was killed. They actually, France refused Malcolm X while he was overseas because they didn't want him to get killed on their ground.
Exactly.
You see, United States and France been having differences. And that was one of their differences. The way France deals with people was different. How they killed Lumumba in Africa. Thank you for watching the Soul Ties Karmic Recall webisodes. Check for more on YouTube at Soul Ties Karmic Recall, and go to SoulTiesKarmicRecall.com for the book series and MLCGC video tutorials.